Well, let's speak now to Joel Rubin, former US Department of State's chief liaison to the US House of Representatives during the Obama administration. Thanks very much for coming on the programme.
It's great to be with you. Good morning.
So we'll get into a couple of the specifics in a moment, but first of all, just your overall sense of that speech.
It was vigorous. It was inspiring for the Democratic Party. It was a winner. And the president laid out a very clear contrast between him and Donald Trump. He didn't just attack Trump, however. He laid out a vision for the country. He laid out a vision on principles and values as well as policies. So it was a slam dunk win. And certainly when going into this speech, all the chatter about is he too old or too slow? I think that Joe Biden knocked that away. And now Republicans are complaining that he was too angry and too effective, I think, is what they're most upset about.
Interesting. Yeah, this was a deliberate ploy, wasn't it? I was speaking to our colleague Katty Kay just ahead of the speech, talking about the word that had been briefed out was energetic, that was what was going to be part of the speech. And I think most agree on both sides of it. It was certainly that, directly addressing that age issue. What do you make of the specific comments about Donald Trump?
Well, look, this is a very cleverly written speech. Typically in the State of the Union, it's a policy address. It's a statement to the public. It's part of the president's budget request to Congress where he lays out his vision for the next 4 years. Or at least for the next coming year. It's not a political speech, but because Donald Trump already was a president, this meant that Joe Biden could, without naming him, attack him and say, my predecessor, time and again. He said it over a dozen times. He would not have said Donald Trump, my opponent. That would have been too political. But because of Trump's resume, he could attack him, and he did. And it was highly effective. And just one more thing to add, he was going back and forth with the crowd, and he seemed to relish in it. It was like the House of Commons, where he was essentially goading them on. And I think he showed a visual contrast between him and the Republican Party right now, including Donald Trump.
Interesting. Joel, stay right there. I want to get your thoughts on this next clip that we're going to play. This is Mr. Biden talking about Ukraine and the continued support needed.
Freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
So what do you make of that? Those international issues, I suppose. He spoke about Israel, Gaza as well, but Ukraine as well.
Without a doubt, President Biden is going to lean into this issue. It's a winner politically. The majority of Americans support it. And so for him, this is a domestic political issue now where he can show clearly that he has a difference between Donald Trump and that he has a policy that could work and save us, except that Republicans in Congress right now are blocking aid to Ukraine and Donald Trump is threatening to undermine NATO. He's going to lean into that. It ties as well his 80-plus years of life and his foreign affairs experience into this sort of long arc of American history. He referenced World War II, he referenced the Civil War, and he's trying to describe to Americans how wars abroad do matter to Americans at home, and he's the guy to trust. And that's a crucial differentiator when we'll have two commanders-in-chief essentially on the ballot for the first time in American history.
Interesting. Joel, one more job for you. Stand by. Take a listen to this. Alabama's Katie Britt, the youngest Republican woman in the Senate, gave her party's response to President Biden's third State of the Union address.
President Biden inherited the most secure border of all time. But minutes after taking office, he suspended all deportations, he halted construction of the border wall, and he announced a plan to give amnesty to millions. We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis, he invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days. President Biden's border policies are a disgrace. This crisis is despicable. And the truth is, it is almost entirely preventable.
Joel, immigration, that southern border issue is going to be huge in this election.
Yeah, but Republicans fell into Joe Biden's trap. They're blocking a bipartisan border security bill from getting passed, and they're doing it at the behest of Donald Trump. So the president last night, he used that argument very clearly. He said, you're not supporting this bill that we need to protect our border. Shame on you. And I think that's going to really undermine the legitimacy of the arguments that Senator Britt just put out there. And frankly, if that's all that Senator Britt has, she's only speaking to a very narrow base of the Republican Party. She's not speaking to the broad middle of the country that wants to see solutions. And those are the ones that Biden said he fought for and Republicans opposed.
OK. Joel Rubin, Democratic strategist. Great to have your thoughts. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Always.
Thank you.
Good morning.